Okay, everyone ready? Lights, camera rolling, scene for alpha, take 17, action. When we were young, many of us dreamt of becoming a scientist. And however, as we grow older, fewer take the path. But what exactly do scientists do? It's very often that we get an opportunity to meet a scientist. What is their daily routine like? Meeting a scientist can spark numerous questions. And today, we at ATI are honored to be accompanied by a climate scientist from the Indian Institute of Tropical Meteorology. He did his PhD in ocean and atmospheric dynamics from Japan. Please welcome Dr. Roxy Mathew Koll. Pleasure having you
Thanks,
here.
Roxy.
He's among the 2% scientists ranked by the Stanford University. Thank you so much for taking the time and joining us today and going above and beyond your career, helping and assisting in other areas beyond your field of expertise. So, sir, can you please, in simple terms, explain what is that you do and so that teenagers out there get an idea before we get going?
Right. So first of all, I would like to thank you, and I'm excited to be here. Yeah, it's good to see teenagers working on the major challenge, the urgent challenge of the globe, and you're working on that urgent challenge, right? And I'm totally happy about it. I'm excited about it, and you guys are very exuberant. It's fun to talk with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that also means climate change or climate crisis and global warming has reached to that level that even teenagers, I mean, early when I used to grow up, like teenagers just wanted to maybe play or video games and things like that, right? And at 12th and all, maybe yeah, I guess you guys are just done with your exams probably, or
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 So I remember that time, my 12th, I was like maybe going for my maybe there was some cricket going on in TV. So that is how our world was limited. But now it has reached to a point where, as a community, as a global community, we have to work together, right? And as a climate scientist, I work on the pressing questions, particularly scientific questions on how the climate is changing, why it is changing, and how it is going to change in the future as well. Yeah. For example, in India, one of the major climatic event or phenomena that affects us are the monsoons, right? The monsoon, which gives most of the rains for us in the country. So our agriculture sector and many other sectors are totally dependent on these monsoon rains. Yeah. So but due to the changes in the climate, this monsoon is changing as well. Yeah. So you would see, for example, right now we are in Hyderabad. You might be getting more long dry periods and short spells of heavy rains, extreme rains. So for some part of the period, some part of the year, you are faced with water scarcity, and suddenly in one day, you, houses, these residential areas and offices, all these areas are flooded, right? I've seen that kind of situation in Hyderabad. Yeah. So as a climate scientist, my task is to understand how this weather is changing over a long period. Yeah. Why it is changing, the science of it, and then put that science, yeah, into programs. These are big programs of the entire Earth system, the ocean, the atmosphere, that the air that we see here. It has multiple components, yeah, and it is driven by the forces of physics, yeah, and also changed by the chemistry of the components, the elements like air pollutants,
Right.
air pollutants there, and also by the biology, the land surface. You see trees over there. So multiple factors influence this climate. Yeah. So we try to put them in little codes.
Okay.
Yeah. We put in this kind of programming languages, either Python or C, or there are old programming languages like Fortran, yeah, which is like obsolete, but These are huge programs which are being which we have started building from you know early 1950s, 1970s, and so on. Okay.
Yeah.
And these are programs which are run on supercomputing facilities. So essentially, we try to convert all that physics, biology, chemistry of the Earth system into huge programs, which have been built on by scientists from the past, and now we are standing on top of that. So we are building up these huge programs which are run on high performance computing so that we can simulate this climate system that is around us at an international global level, but also zooming. So if it is very high resolution model that we are building, we call them models, climate models. If it is a high resolution climate models, if your supercomputing is good enough, uh, has high capacity, and also your physics is good enough to explain at that level, like for example, maybe a 10 by 10 square kilometer level, so that if you are in what is this place called,
Madhapur, yeah.
Madhapur or high tech city area for Hyderabad. You want to know how the climate is changing over this region. You need a high performance computer with high resolution data and intricate physics at that level to understand. So we try to put that in code, simulate that, and maybe try to understand and also forecast for the next few days to few weeks to few months, and maybe for the future as well, several years to decades to end of the century, based on different scenarios. Yeah. So that is basically, as a climate scientist, that I do. But now, school student, college student, it's affecting you. Yeah. So my task, in essence, is to try to understand that and maybe work with people to find solutions. Because as a climate scientist, maybe I'm looking at how it works, how the science works, but some of the science can be used to understand, and understanding it helps in finding solutions, and then translate into policies so that as a country we can strive forward to, for a better environment around us. Yeah. I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, of course. And I think when you were talking about India I was just thinking as a peninsula country,
Yeah,
India would be a more challenging country to
definitely.
predict something like a climate change, because you have the Bay of Bengal and the Arabian Sea, and then you also have the late monsoons coming all the way from December. And I have
Of course, you know all these things. Cool. Yeah.
So, I was just thinking, I have seen your India today, and 2 years ago there was a horrible crisis in Kerala. Now, I'm just trying to understand that has been going on for the last 10 years.
Yeah.
And why is it still happening?
Right.
And especially now, and just a few minutes ago, you were also talking about India, I mean, Hyderabad particularly facing
Yeah.
that problem.
Right.
So, how do we solve that? Because I don't think we are getting to a point, it's just we're
Yeah.
coming back to square one.
Yeah.
And is it something to do with the drainage system? And I mean, that may be out of your reach, but I think it would
Right.
definitely impact on what you're looking at. So, how do you come up with solutions in these areas?
Right. So you put in so many things over there. First of all,
Right.
India. India is in a very challenging position, and part of that is because of its geography itself. Because if you look at India compared to other places, we are located in the tropical region. Yeah. So on all three sides, whether it's eastern side where Telangana, Andhra Pradesh is, or western side where I am originally coming from, Maharashtra and Kerala and so on, all three sides are, sided by the tropical waters, and these are the warmest waters on Earth. We call it a warm pool. Yeah, and this warm ocean, the Indian Ocean, is warming very fast. It's actually warming faster than many land regions. Yeah, unexpectedly. Yeah, and this one particular reason is because the Indian Ocean is landlocked. Now, I said all three sides. Then on the north, you are the Himalayas. Okay, so if you look long back, centuries back, these waters, the seas and the mountains were our forte. they used to be our, protection, right?
Right.
So that enemies cannot come and, simply, take our resources or,
Right.
conquer us. Yeah. But now they are the fastest changing. So over the Himalayas, the glaciers are melting at a fast rate. Yeah. And the ocean waters are also warming at a fast rate. This will churn out cyclones, tropical storms, and extreme rains, sea level rise. This is one interesting point because uh, how do you think sea level rise increases?
The melting of Antarctic
Ha,
glaciers.
yeah. So generally we know sea level rise is due to melting ice. So you have a lot of ice
Right.
and snow over the Antarctic, Arctic, Antarctic in the south and Arctic in the north.
Mm.
Himalayan glaciers also melt.
Right.
This all comes into the ocean and the water volume increases, right? But there is another reason also. Yeah. Uh, the entire ocean is like 73% of Earth surface.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's deep also. So it's a deep reservoir. Yeah. And it's absorbing more than 90% of the heat from global warming actually. So what we are affected by is only less than 10% of the because due to the carbon emissions and so on. So 90% actually heat absorbed by the oceans. And when oceans absorb that heat, yeah, they expand because water expands when it's warmed up. Yeah. So 50% of the sea level rise that we see experience is actually due to warm water expanding. Yeah.
Right.
So it's not just polar ice melting and so on, but this also. So all this puts India is in a very crucial stage because we are in the tropical conditions where generally, even without climate change, because the tropic is that belt where you get more solar energy. So there's more energy located in the tropics. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because of that, the weather also is fast moving.
Right.
Yeah. Weather is fast moving. The clouds and weather systems are smaller. So they are smaller and fast moving. Okay. And because of that, they are less predictable also. They can go extreme. So weather system like a huge cloud can form, we call it cumulonimbus clouds, which are can have rains and thunderstorms and all,
Okay.
which goes from a cloud base of 1 kilometer from surface to 12 kilometers.
Okay.
Or more.
Okay.
Yeah. So that can form in a few hours over the tropical regions and suddenly result in a cloud burst over some regions over India,
Right.
like over the Western Ghats or you saw Himachal Pradesh and all many landslides happening after the cloud burst and all. So uh, we are in that critical geographical position where we are bombarded with lot of these extreme events and that is increasing and you mentioned last 10 years. Yeah, it's true because last 10 years the heat in the ocean and the climatic conditions are accumulated and reach a point where the changes are very visible in terms of the heat waves, in terms of uh, extreme events like extreme rains, landslides, flash floods, normal floods, and also droughts as well. We see the monsoon is changing with long dry periods and short spells of rain. So you get more both dry and deficit or drought conditions, and also floods in the same year or sometimes in the same season. Yeah, sometimes in the same region or scattered in different places over India. Yeah, so the question is why is it a big challenge even in this digital era, right? One major issue is, like I said, the tropical weather is fast moving and also short or smaller systems compared to extratropics. Yeah, so we say you might have it's very popular joke on weathermen. Yeah. Okay, they have the Met Department has forecasted rain, so you don't have to take an umbrella today. That kind of jokes, yeah. And this is much more truer for tropical regions because it is less predictable because of the same reason that I mentioned about. There is one more reason for places like the US, Europe, and all. So if you consider the globe is rotating, right?
Okay.
And because of the rotation, the air and the fluids, the currents and all are also affected by this rotation. This is what we call a Coriolis force. Yeah, you might have heard about it.
Yeah.
And this is stronger as you go northward. Yeah, which means north, like US, Europe, and all, UK, and all, the weather conditions there are affected by Coriolis force, the rotation of Earth, much more than the tropics. Yeah. So there the weather systems are controlled by this Coriolis force, by the rotation of Earth, and they are large systems. So they are more predictable because this Coriolis force is one of a major parameter controlling the weather.
Right.
So you would see people saying, or coming from the US or Europe and saying, oh, here, if we forecast like 3 days ahead, the forecast is accurate. Yeah. And that's because of this fundamental reason. Your large forecast system, large weather systems controlled by this rotation of Earth. But along the equator, near the tropics, this role of Coriolis force is minimal. Yeah. So that is one challenge as per challenge. Yeah. Now, because of climate change, we say, okay, extremes are increasing and all, and this also is much more over the tropics due to the same reason, because these are fast moving, short systems. But now, if I say only the climate point of view, it will be quite wrong, because if we see how these climate challenges are manifesting on ground, yeah, near the surface, yeah, we see, for the example, floods happening, yeah, due to extreme rains. Many places, particularly cities like Hyderabad, Mumbai, Delhi, uh, Chennai, this is actually due to our direct intervention on the land surface, how we deal with the land. So today I was driving around Hyderabad to reach here. Entire built up area, full concrete. If a heavy rain falls in this place, there is no ground for that water to sink in or flow out. Yeah. There is no swampy areas. Yeah. And like places like Hyderabad, Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, or even Bangalore regions had a lot of lakes, like the lakes out here. And they were all connected in some ways. At least during the rainy season, they were all connected. Yeah. So that means when they are connected means the water from one area will flow to another area when there is excess water. But it also means when there is no rain, because the water had flown from one lake to another water body, during dry times, that water can be used.
Okay.
But now these lakes and water bodies are not connected. They are all, I mean, it's all built up area around. So you don't have, a buffer area which catches that additional rain. You don't have proper drainage also. We are not organized in that way in terms of city plannings are quite bad, honestly, in India. Anywhere in India, it's totally bad. Even the smart cities that India is building up, yeah. I heard recently one smart city they were building up, yeah. It was flooded even before it was built up. They were building metros that was flooded, yeah. So situations like these are there because of our own fancies and fallacies which are not planned well. So the same situation, the built-up area also trap a lot of heat. Yeah. So when it's summer, like during April, May, and early June, it is uh, because there are no clouds, there are no rains, and the solar radiation is a lot. Yeah. We get a lot of sun's energy. Yeah. And the problem that cities have is that because of all this built up area, these cities trap that solar energy. Yeah. So usually what happens is, generally, if you consider Earth, or with some forest and vegetation and all. Okay, in the daytime, you get solar energy as short-wave radiation.
Right.
Yeah, and it goes back, particularly in the night also, it continues going back as long-wave radiation. Yeah. So if you have vegetation or open areas, parks and all, uh, that radiation goes back. But when you have concrete, the same concrete which traps water during floods, it traps heat also, yeah, during this hot season. Yeah, so the longer radiation doesn't go out, the temperatures go up because it doesn't cool down. So even nighttime temperatures in cities are very high. So I recently saw a satellite image of Delhi and rural areas nearby Delhi, which has vegetation. Okay, this is the nighttime temperature, and the difference was between 15 to 20 degrees Celsius.
Wow.
15 to 20 degrees Celsius. So we call them urban heat island. So imagine even at night it doesn't cool, but still temperatures are 30, 35 degrees Celsius or more. Yeah. So we have built that on our own. Yeah. So it's not, I mean, even climate change is also a human artifact, but sometimes that's in response to emissions, carbon emissions during the last 50, 70, or from 1950s onwards, mainly, yeah, or since the Industrial Revolution from the early 1900s, yeah. But these local impacts are, if it is Hyderabad city, it's due to the people that built that in Hyderabad
So I
itself.
think a little more conscious city planning,
Oh, definitely.
I think that will help a lot of movement of air also in the city. And I think, like you said, the day and night climate would also be a little more stable to at least reduce that heat.
Right.
So, so moving ahead, do you think a little more conscious policies made in terms of city planning and a little more involvement in scientists like in expert in your field helping in these areas give more idea in how to reduce these climate issues?
Oh, definitely, definitely. I would say you asked a little more conscious. I would say a lot more
Yeah,
and way ahead. When you plan itself, when you're planning for a city or when you're planning to expand a city, I think that should be one of the first parameter to decide. Okay, in which way? So suppose a place which is going to be around along the coast, or which is definitely going to be flooded, low-lying land. You will not build a house there, right?
yeah,
So the same vision should be there when you are building for a society, a community over a larger area or a road. Yeah, and this should not be just uh, with the mindset that climate is changing, or okay, these areas have been flooded, or it used to be very hot here, but also based on what is going to happen in the future.
right.
Yeah. So if you're building a road or a house or a office parking area, whatever it is, and uh, okay, it will the plan will suffice for any floods that happened in the past, and you are going ahead. Okay, this was the flood line, so we are beyond that, and nothing will happen to us. That will be a folly because we need to think about floods in the future, which will be much more intense.
Right.
Yeah, or along the coast, the sea level will be much more higher, or in a house if you are having ventilation and all, but your future heat will be much more stronger. Yeah, so uh, we need clever planning, including scientists and engineers, architects from all streams actually. In fact, architects are one of the major uh, kind of experts that can help in terms of building our infrastructure, which are sustainable, energy efficient, and adapted to changing climate. Yeah. But there are ways in which buildings can be built also. Uh, for example, you keep the natural area below as such, and you have pillars, and then build like you build parking, but you don't cement the entire area, but have the natural area below, so that the water also can go through, animals can go through. So it will be corridors for all your air circulation, your water, animals, biodiversity, as well as other things as well at the same time. So that's one example. But you can have different policies similar to that.
Yeah, so I was just thinking again, as much as we can uh, target the policy makers,
Yeah.
I think, and especially in our campaign Punaravrati, the whole idea of our first two events was to show the transition of how this concrete jungle to a agricultural land or farms, so that people know that what we are losing out and the actual place where we are staying.
Yeah.
And coming to my question, so do you think it makes sense to attack instead of at this point? I think policymakers need to be educated much earlier, and if not for policymakers, it trying to bring that conscious mind should also start way younger.
Yeah.
So do you see any gaps in the education, or maybe put in a little more this scientific approach, so that if not for a complete course into that area, so at least let's say if you're doing civils, you have a little idea, like how you were just saying, and I mean, get the policymakers to get in something in that level.
Oh, definitely. So we are discussing about the education system. From when I feel education system in India is very academic. So it's like you read a lot of information, but we don't know the practical application of
There's
it.
no action oriented
Yeah, there
plan.
is no action oriented. There is no developing skills based on it.
Right.
So you might learn physics, you might learn biology, you might learn other things, but at the end of 10th or 12th or even after college, you are not any skills. You do not know the application of many of the things. So my kids also ask me sometimes, yeah, why should I learn this maths? Because and even I do not understand some of the maths, honestly, okay, in his books. Yeah. We need to go, the education system should be an experience for children to go through and understand these kind of scenarios where they use any science or math or whatever language they learn for real life, applying to real life scenarios, and they develop the skills also. So in that way, I think climate is a similar thing. We are living with the climate every day. You are going to school, coming back. I will give again example of my son here. So this was just post COVID. Um, I think he was going to sixth or something. Now he's in ninth. Yeah, so sixth or seventh or something. And we were happy to send him to school immediately because we were all sitting in the same house. Okay, and maybe fighting with each other. Yeah. So we were happy that the kids are suddenly going to school. So we sent them to school. But it was May. Okay, month of May, and they were coming back from school at the peak of the heat in the school bus. The school bus takes a long time to go around. Yeah. I'm telling this because these climate stories are very intricate. You cannot easily quantify them, but if you tell the story, you will understand how far it goes and how it affects different people also, and how it is important for the education system also. So he and other kids, other students goes through all these long way to reach back home. It takes almost 1 hour, and this is between 2 and 3 p.m. These are the peak hours when the heat is the maximum temperatures. In Pune, generally we have milder temperatures, but last several years, just like you said, it has been hotter than usual. This year also it's hotter. So that time he was coming back from school and directly going to the bedroom and just lying down there like he's under heat strokes kind of situation. Yeah. And we don't know, even uh, children and even adults do not know how, uh, do not have much understanding of heat waves. They do not know what to do with these kind of situations. Yeah. School authorities also do not know. Yeah. Which means that is a major gap in our education system. So the Met Department had already shown in through newspapers, they have disseminated this information. Okay, it's going to be a hot time. They're also already put forecast. They said high temperatures are already like this, maximum temperatures at noon time, yeah, or post noon time. So if our education system is good, they would say, okay, cut down school hours. Okay, have it early or cut down school hours to maybe until 11 or 12 and let the students go home early so they are not exposed to this heat. Yeah, and even rural areas, this may be much more severe if they are under tin roofs and all. The entire school, the classroom might be boiling hot, and the kids won't realize it. They would be affected. Yeah, so we need to actually uh, understand the environment outside. And so our education system should be integrated in a comprehensive way so that we have real life experience. So we call it place based learning.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you're learning, if your school is in Hyderabad or in Pune, you learn the local environment also. You learn what could be the maximum temperature. Yeah. What could be the minimum temperature? And what precautions would you do? Which season would it be? How much would be the rainfall? If there is a forecast, what would you do? Have you learned this in your school? No.
No.
I don't know any school doing that, but we need schools that do that. Yeah.
Right. I think that gives a lot of idea for how
Yeah.
education policies should also be made.
Yeah.
And I think it starts from school when you're taking a
Yeah.
step towards a climate change. And I think at this point you can't say that, climate change is a subject. I think it's part of everyone's lives.
Yeah.
So I think we all should start being a little more conscious on that, on those
Definitely. And I
terms
see
also.
opportunities for you to prepare videos for the local communities
Right.
on what you can do about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
These kind of situations.
Yeah. So I think the first simple steps are just, I don't think these topics are very overwhelming, because as simple as just adjusting a little schedule can make a lot of difference. And especially in terms of talking about heat strokes or heat waves, a child doesn't know what to do, and maybe even the teachers may not know what
Yeah.
to take precautions.
Yeah.
So I think to maybe avoid that entire scenario, a little adjustment into the schedule will make a lot of difference, and you don't have to study a lot of science to understand that.
Exactly.
So I think maybe later
You
what
don't
we
need climate scientists to understand this actually.
but later I think if we have these small workshops,
Yeah.
you don't need to have it in a syllabus. Maybe these small workshops where everyone understands, right, can maybe make a lot of difference
You
in
can have
how.
interesting videos
Right.
because people watch YouTube.
Yeah.
People don't go to workshops,
Definitely.
especially educational workshops.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, make it fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm sure all the teenagers have got a lot to take away from this episode.
definitely. I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. It was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
I think we'll
I
get.
think even it was a learning process for me. It is nice to know how you think about it
Yeah.
and also discuss about it.
I think the teenagers have a lot to take away from today's episode. We hope more teens take part in our campaign Punaravrati and act to simplify the concepts of climate change. Thank you, Dr. Cole, for taking the time and joining us. Take 17 is available on all streaming platforms. Please do like, share, subscribe, and follow us on Instagram for more interesting conversations and activities for teens and by teens.